Echo and HarperAudio present the Nom Wah Cookbook, recipes and stories from 100 years at New York City's iconic dim sum restaurant, by Wilson Tang with Joshua David Stein, read by Wilson Tang. Introduction. At the crook of Dwyer Street in New York's Chinatown, a street so crimped and cramped with history it's like time's taken a hairpin curve, you'll find Nom Wah Tea Parlor. Sewn into the side street like a jewel in a hem, Nom Wah has provided a temporary home for the weary, the lonely, the fatigued, and the famished for the last 100 years. The sign, written in English with Chinese characters below, blinks like a homing beacon. Inside, a cup of scalding tea is always there for the sipping, alongside an almond cookie or a steamer full of hagao for anyone who needs nourishment. Push open the glass doors and the sound of porcelain knocking against porcelain still ricochets around the room. Even as the world outside has changed, the crack and cackle of teacups on tables have been a steady score. Any business a century old has its ups and downs. Its crescendos and diminuendos. Nom Wah is no different. It survived, now it flourishes. In the Nom Wah I remember growing up, this clatter was accompanied by the click-clack of ivory mahjong tiles and the exhale of 1,000 cheap cigarettes. Add to that the plaintive creak of dim sum trolleys threading through the dining room, the hiss of steam from the kitchen line, and my Uncle Wally, who's always had a word, or at least a grunt, for everyone who walked through his doors. It was the soundtrack of the Chinese experience in New York for much of the 20th century, or at least my Chinese-American experience in New York for much of the 20th century. Uncle Wally, a hard-working man of strong opinions, squeezed into a few words, didn't start the tea parlor. Wally arrived in New York in 1950, a 16-year-old immigrant fleeing Mao's Great Leap Forward. Like the vast majority of early Chinatown arrivals, Wally came from Toishan, in the southern rim of the Guangdong province in southern China. And again, like the vast many of early Chinatown arrivals, he found employment in the restaurant industry. By then, Nom Wah was already 30 years old, an institution in the constant flux of Chinatown life started by Ed and May Choi, a family from Guangzhou, the capital of Guangdong. The Chois were driven into the restaurant business by the Chinese Exclusion Act, a shameful blight on the history of America that not only unconstitutionally restricted Chinese immigration, but through visa restrictions, forced those immigrants who did arrive into low-skilled, low-paid labor like restaurant work and hand laundries. Take a look around and you'll see how long-tailed these laws are and how hard generations of Chinese immigrants worked to move beyond them. Under the Choi family, the tea parlor was largely a bakery specializing in delicately flavored red bean-filled mooncakes, a specialty eaten in Guangdong in particular during the Chinese New Year and, of course, tea. Dim sum, which is traditionally a breakfast food, was available in the early morning towards lunch. Before heading to work, folks would stop by for a few moments to grab a fried egg crepe filled with vegetables or a pillowy char siu bao, a steamed bun with bits of sweet roast pork inside. Under the Chois, Wally worked his way up from dishwasher to cook to waiter to manager. Finally, when the couple retired in 1974, he bought the business and 11-13 Dwyer Street, the squat building that housed it. Continuing with tradition, he ran the place as a bakery but shifted his focus to include wholesale as well. After taking over the adjoining storefront, Nom Wah became known for its red bean paste and lotus seed paste, two essential components for Chinese bakeries. Though the focus shifted, dim sum still wobbled on. It was easier to keep the restaurant going than to fold it up, so he still made sure that there were snacks coming out of the kitchen. Making their rounds were carts laden with the classics, hagao, the pinkish shrimp visible through nearly translucent wrappers, golden squares of sausage-studded turnip cake, shimmering rice rolls called cheng fan, topped with a sweet vinegary sauce, and chunks of garlic-marinated spare ribs. I watched Nom Wah from afar. My father was also in the restaurant business until he retired a few years ago. When I was a kid, he had a
Sample complete. Ready to continue?